Okay, this is problem 1 out of section 8.3. A lot of trig involved here. All of these 4 angles are represented here. They all have the same reference angles. The only difference is the signs. Of course, in the first quadrant, everything's positive. In the second quadrant, sine's positive, but the cosine and tangent are not. Now, keep in mind that these are also the reciprocal angles of these 3 each time would not be considered, would be the same thing. And going all the way around. It gives you the value. It gives you, this is pi over 6. This is the 30-degree angle. 5 pi over 6 is the same thing as 150. 7 pi over 6 is 210. 330 is 11 pi over 6. Then we have the same kind of thing with the pi over 4. The pi over 4 there can be 3/4, 5/4, 7/4, depending on the location, and that could also change the signs. Then the last one is the pi over 3 one. Same kind of situation, gives you all those values and everything that you can have. They are all 60-degree reference angles. That's the actual 60. That's the 120, 240, and 300 would be what you would need there. Now, this is all just background and reference. Now, you're solving this equation over the interval from 0 to 2 pi. So you start out with the equation. You want to solve it for sine theta. Move the 1, divide by 4. Sine squared is 1/4. Take the square root of both sides, plus or minus the square root of 1/4. The square root of 1 is 1, square root of 4 is 2. So sine theta is plus or minus 1/2. When is sine 1/2? Sine is 1/2 at 30 degrees or pi over 6. So in the first quadrant, it's pi over 6. Second, 5 pi over 6. Third, 7 pi over 6. And fourth, 11 pi over 6. And this is the background. 1/2 is 30 or pi over 6. The plus 1/2 will occur in the first and second, the negative in the third and the fourth. In the second quadrant, if pi over 6 is your reference angle, you subtract it from pi and you end up with 5 pi over 6. Third quadrant, you add it to pi, you end up with 7 pi over 6. And the fourth quadrant, you subtract it from 2 pi. A full circle subtracted. 2 pi is the same thing as 12 pi over 6, and if you subtract 1, you get 11 pi over 6. The graph and the page up above is just simply for background, but you can read it off that too.